everybody's feeling the same thing. There's no hope. It's all outside of my control. There's nothing I can do. These are the common things. It's not fair. These are the common things that people feel.
Your life is a series of lessons you've learned. Now, if you just dwell on the failures, like that's not healthy. It's not smart and it's not empowering. What you got to do is look at those failures and go, well, now you know what not to do.
So being a victim is being completely powerless and taking away all control you might have, which ultimately doesn't make you feel safe, which ultimately doesn't give you happiness, which ultimately doesn't give you prosperity and, fill in the blank. And so what does being a victim get you? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
And first off, life is not fair. Bad things happen to good people. Perfect plans suddenly, in the blink of an eye, can be ripped apart and just be totally thrown off course. And it is this, so many people, and the victim mindset is a mindset, well, that's not fair. Well, you're right, it's not. But guess what? Sitting there and focusing all your blame and time on the fact that your perfect plan or something happened or your world got thrown upside down accomplishes nothing. Nothing.
Life is filled with so many different kinds of experiences that are available. And that's one of the things that you sort of open up to when you relax. When you relax and, you don't worry about what you look like, you don't worry about what you sound like, you don't worry about how people feel about you, because you've thought about all these different things on your own, and you've kind of corrected as many things as you can correct given that time period. But you feel comfortable that you're on a good path. Mm-hmm. Then you sort of can entertain ideas that maybe you wouldn't if you were insecure. Sure. Or more insecure. I think you have to be insecure if you're finite.
A victim mentality limits your success in this life. You will stay wherever you are and you will achieve the limit of what you believe, which if you believe you're never going to get out of the neighborhood you grew up in, you're right, you will not. And if you're waiting for somebody else to save you, it most likely is not going to happen. And actually what I have come to find over time is even if someone comes to save you, if you don't believe in yourself, we can't drag anybody off the X, because guess what? They will climb right back onto it. Mm. It's only an individual that believes in themselves.
There's a quote by Goethe, and it says, if you look at a person as they are, they will always remain that way, or maybe be worse. But if you look at a person, this is good. If you look at a person as they could be, they will grow into what they should be. Right? We have to know what we stand for. I'm not talking about what your company stands for. I'm not talking about your family values. I'm talking you as an individual. When you walk into a room, what do you represent? As you as an individual, when people around you see you, what feeling do they get? How do you leave your energy impression on the people around you? As individuals, we have to do that. That's the first step that we have to do when we're talking about make your mark. Everybody repeat after me, make my mark. Yeah. Repeat after me, in order to make my mark, I have to define my mission statement. In order to make your mark, some of you are going through, you're on the journey of becoming, and you have to look at adversity with a new perspective, right? By a show of hands, how many of you guys have experienced fear? I need the elbow to lock. So here's what fear does. Fear is restrictive. Fear stops us from taking the steps that we need to take to become the best version of ourselves. Fear is the thing that's literally holding you back from doing the thing that you're supposed to do. Fear is stopping you from becoming the leader that you're supposed to be now. One of the things that I've learned in my past is that leadership is not a title. Leadership is an action. Leadership is not the title that you have. You can clap for that, because let's go. Leadership is not a title. Leadership is an action. Leadership is not a noun. Leadership is a verb. Leadership is not what you look like or where you are. Leadership is the way in which you interact and how you treat the people around you. I'm trying to tell you something, people. Leadership is each and every one of you right now are a leader. Young professionals, unemployed, if you don't know what's going on, you're a leader just by the way in which you operate. I'm being honest. Many of us are stuck and stagnant in situations because we believe that we need someone to give us the card to initiate what we're supposed to do. Someone here is literally supposed to absolutely put their time and their effort in something new. Like someone here right now is supposed to focus on their dream and their goals and their aspirations. The question that I ask myself every time that I speak, I don't look at this as a keynote, I look at this as an assignment. The thing that I ask myself is, if I don't operate in my faith and instead operate in my fear, if I don't chase my dreams and become the person that I'm supposed to be, who loses out?
You're here right now at this moment because tomorrow you want to be somebody greater than the person you are today. You see yourself succeeding, you have a vision, you have a dream. Congratulations. You're already 10 steps ahead of 95% of the world. Imagine if Michael Jordan was scared of missing. He would have never taken a shot. Imagine if Steve Jobs was afraid of people not liking his product. There would be no iPhone. So ask yourself this. Do you want to be a person who fears failure, or do you want to be a person who loves success? Which one? Because you're going to have to pick today. And I'll tell you one thing. One is a failure, and one is a success. And if you love success, there is nothing that can stop you. All those negative things people say will mean nothing. They're going to talk about how only 1% make it to the top. Big deal. Want to know something else? Only 1% stick with that fitness program long enough to see results. Only 1% of nerds stick with that video game long enough to get good at it. Only 1% of relationships stick it out to the end. That doesn't mean you have a 1% chance. It just means you can't behave like the 99%. You'll have to do something better than giving up a month from now. Those are just numbers. You want to talk about numbers? Take a look around you and take a good look around you. Are you like 99% of the people around you? If you are, then you're in the wrong video, my friend. You have to love success just as much because that's what's going to allow you to get up and go for it. Being scared to fail won't do anything. In fact, when you love success and you start going for it, guess what happens? You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail 10 times, 100 times, maybe even 1,000 times. But that's okay. Failure isn't permanent. Falling isn't permanent. You get right back up and keep going. And this time, you're gonna be stronger, wiser, and you'll be more driven than ever. And for every 10 failures, you'll land one success. You have to love success so much that you're willing to fail 10 times before you can succeed once. That's how a winner does it. I want to explain the biggest myth that most people think leads them to success. And here's the myth. You might believe if you're scared to fail, you won't fail. Lies. Biggest myth ever. And I believed it. You see, I always thought that being scared to fail in life would literally keep me from failing. I would look at the losers around me and I would say, sheesh, I never want to turn out like him. I really believed this train of thought would help me succeed. Until one day, I was walking down the street and I saw an old man. Had a hat, suspenders, and a cane. Was about 80 years old. This old man was barely walking. He could walk, but the cane helped a lot. He was struggling. So anyway, he was walking across the street and he ended up falling. So I went over to go help him. And he gets up, says thank you, and we introduce ourselves. Had a little conversation. told me his name and I told him mine. His name was Robert, by the way. And right as he walked away, I told him, this is what I said. Robert, you should stay inside where it's safe, my friend. And Robert turns around and says to me, I love walking, and I love walking way more than I'm afraid of falling. So I ask him, well, what about your safety? Don't you want to live? And he told me this. These are the exact words he said. He said this: Solo, living means doing what you love to do. And if I have to fall here and there to do what I want to do in life, then so be it. And he just walked away. Never saw him again. That was it. But that statement really had me thinking, and it had me thinking hard, because I learned something that day. That's when I realized the true key to success. You see, I always thought if I could just fear the act of failing, and if I fear it like crazy, I will succeed. Because I thought the fear would magically motivate me to get out there and start taking action. But after that day, I realized something. I realized it's the love for success that will lead me to succeeding. So just imagine if Robert feared falling. Would he even start walking? Of course not. He wouldn't even do what he loved to do. He would sit at home and take no type of action. But he loved walking. Wasn't even scared to fall. It gave him life. That's what allowed him to get up and do it. He loved walking so much, he was willing to fall 10 times a day just to do it. And you have to be the same. So the next time someone tells you, you're gonna fail, you know what you tell them? Tell them they're right. But you're not afraid to fail. You're not afraid to take action. You're not afraid to jump. You're gonna fail 10 times, but you know what? It's cool. Because on the 11th time, you'll succeed. Oh, you'll succeed, all right. And it'll feel good. And while you're over here living the life of your dreams and complete happiness, guess where they're gonna be? That's right. They'll be failures, the real failures. Over there where it's safe, scared to fail. Ironic, isn't it?
No matter what type of circumstances that you have been raised in or have experienced, you always have the ability to find a way out and create success for yourself. And I had to do that in my own life. I'd see all the college students go towards the campus and I thought to myself, where are they going? What are they doing? Why do they look different than the rest of the people that are in the group? And that always kept in the back of my head. And our mother said, whatever you do, in order to change your circumstance, you're gonna have to get an education. And so I kept that in the back of my head. No matter what, I had to educate myself. I had to get a degree. The people that I saw going to the school down the street, that's something I could do. And I had that vision. I would go to this school that was like in a predominantly well-off area, and everyone had books and paper and really nice shoes. And I remember looking at this thinking, oh, I don't have any of that. And every time I would come back into my neighborhood, I would see the graffiti and I'd see the trash. And I thought to myself, what makes a difference? Why are there people here in this situation versus here in this situation? And every single day I would come back, and it came down to this. It was the thinking, how we think, how we look at situations, whether or not we see ourselves doing well and being successful, or versus if we see ourselves as a not successful person in an environment. Our thinking defines our life. And when we can take hold of our thought and see it for what it is and change it and transform it and change it to convert it into an energy that unleashes a brain power that allows us to change a situation, that, my friend, is how we change our lives, and that's how we change everyone else's. What happened was I was failing algebra. I failed algebra. I failed geometry. I failed calculus and chemistry. And there was this calculus teacher that said, all right, I'm going to offer calculus tutoring for anyone who's willing to come to the campus during the winter break. And I thought everyone was going to show up. There was only myself. Wow. And I thought to myself, this is such a blessing. And I sat there and I picked his brain. I'm like, how do I look? What does an integral mean? What does the tangent mean? What does the instantaneous rate mean? And these are all words for derivative in calculus. And I got a chance to sit down with them. And that was the first time ever that I realized I was smart. And when I sat with him, it was amazing because I realized what was stopping me was my own fear. It wasn't anything with my educational aspect. It was me thinking I couldn't do well in mathematics. And when I learned to remove that fear and think, I'm gonna do this no matter what's gonna happen. I may fail it, I may not fail it. I'm gonna do well at this, and I'm gonna just see where it goes. I'm gonna put my all into it. We'll find out. And I put my all into it and I failed. But it's something inside of me shifted. I realized, hey, failing wasn't that bad. If I can like spend a little bit more time at it, I can actually do really well at this. And that was the shift in thinking. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna spend some more time in it and I'm gonna actually get this. When I overcome my own fear, it was when I was working with someone else and recognizing that the person next to me was the exact mirror of myself. And as I could help that person right next to me, I was helping myself at the same time. And it became this teamwork. Every single person on the campus needed mathematics. And so I got a chance to know everybody on the campus and became one of the most popular people because everyone needed mathematics. And that confidence that was built from taking something that I failed at before and shifting my thinking about it and embracing it to actually create a new reality for myself, that's what empowered me. And that's what allowed me to graduate top of my class, which later on opened up the door to launch rockets.
There are 4 core regrets over and over again, and they tend to transcend the domains of life. We often think of our regrets as like, oh, I have a career regret. Oh no, but I have a health regret, or I have a romance regret. But what I found is the 4 regrets are these: foundation regrets. Foundation regrets are, if only I'd done the work. These are regrets people have about not studying hard enough in university, or not taking care of their health, or smoking, or not eating right, or not saving money. Small decisions that accumulate to bad consequences. The second one, huge category, boldness regrets. These are regrets that people have that say, if only I'd taken the chance. They didn't start a business. They didn't ask that crush out for a date. They didn't travel. They had an opportunity at one point in their life to do something beyond play it safe. They chose not to do that, and now they regret it. Third category are moral regrets. If only I'd done the right thing. These are people who, at a certain point in their life, could do the right thing or the wrong thing. They do the wrong thing, and it still bugs them, which is in some way, its own way, heartening. It shows that I think people want to be good. And the final one are connection regrets. Connection regrets are, if only I'd reached out. And these are regrets about relationships, where you have a relationship, or you should have had a relationship, and it comes apart, usually through drifts, and you want to reach out, but you don't because you think it's going to be awkward and the other side's not going to care, so it drifts out even more, and then in some cases it ends up being too late. And so these 4 regrets, to me, reveal, as I said earlier, what makes life worth living. What do we want out of life? We want a stable foundation. We want some stability. We want a chance to do something. We want a chance to learn and grow and lead a psychologically rich life. We want to do the right thing. I'm convinced, Tyler, that most of us want to do the right thing. And what else do we want? We want love. We want connection to other people. That's what makes life worth living. And I think in terms of careers, I think that what makes a good career. I think that's what makes an organization that's worth working for. And this way that I think that we can process our regrets is very healthy. So one thing you can do is you can, I feel like there's 3 simple steps that you can take to turn your regrets into engines for progress. One of them is to reframe the regret and the way you think about yourself. So a lot of times when we have a regret, one reason that we try to avoid it is that if we really confront it, we start lacerating ourselves, saying, our self-talk is, you're an idiot, what are you talking about? And what we should do instead is, it sounds gooey, but what we should do instead is treat ourselves with kindness. There's a body of research in what's called self-compassion, which is treating ourselves with kindness rather than contempt. Thinking about our own missteps as part of the human condition, not something that only we do. Looking at our missteps not as fully definitional of who we are, but as just one part of who we are. And so just sort of being a little better to ourselves. The second thing you can do is disclosure. Disclosure is itself inherently valuable. And we know that it relieves a burden, but the other thing, when we talk about our regrets or even write about them, we take this blobby, amorphous, negative emotion and convert it into words, and that makes it less fearsome, and it begins the sense-making process. So there's a pile of evidence showing that talking about our regrets, even writing about them privately, is a way to defang them. And finally, what we need to do, which is essential, is we need to, we can look inward, all right, we can express outward, but then we got to move forward. And the way to do that, in my mind, is to take a step back and extract a lesson from it. What would you tell your best friend to do? If you were looking back on this decision 10 years from now, what would you want to have done? If someone else were in your position, what would she do? And I think this process of looking inward and treating ourselves with some kindness, expressing outward and disclosing the regret as a way to make sense of it, and then moving forward by taking a step back and extracting a lesson is relatively simple to do and allows us to take these regrets and not be scared of them and not let them debilitate us, but to enlist them as forces for moving forward. When we're making a decision, we think that that's the most important decision there is. And so for me, I think a tool is to make decisions for fundamental reasons rather than instrumental reasons, which goes to what you were talking about before about careers as a line. That if we make decisions, if I decide I'm going to major in this because it's going to lead to that, which is going to lead to that, which is going to lead to that, I think that's a bad idea because you have no idea where it's going to lead. If you major in something because you like it, because it's interesting, because you find it compelling, major in that because you're going to learn a lot, you're going to do really well, and you have no idea where it's going to lead. And so, the reason that I like making decisions for fundamental reasons rather than instrumental reasons is not because I have this noble view of the world. It's that instrumental reasons don't work because the world is so complicated. So you're better off just making decisions for fundamental reasons, doing things you care about that are meaningful and that contribute, and being alert to opportunity along the way, recognizing that, as you said earlier, that the path is not a path, it's the opposite of a line. It's a messy, three-dimensional squiggle. Sometimes we have the sequence wrong. We think, okay, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do and then do it. But what I found in my own life, and I think the lives of others, is that sequence is off. That actually the way to figure out what you want to do is to do stuff. So the doing actually leads to the figuring out rather than the other way around.
Greatness lies in every single individual. And the only thing stopping an individual from being successful is them. It doesn't guarantee it. I will say that. But I tell you what will guarantee you never moving forward is if you buy into that victim mindset and just sit on that X forever, waiting for some miraculous thing to come along and save you. Because if you don't start that process, it'll never happen.
When you're a victim, you're in zero control. Like, you have zero control. And we can go, from the simplest thing of like, you're a victim and you want the government to take care of it. Well, what if the government fails? Well, now you're screwed, right? So you need to be independent in that space. You're being abused, you're a victim. Yes, I understand that there should be sympathy inside of being a victim for something that happened, but that's the key, something that happened. If it's happening, we're talking a completely different thing here, and I want to make sure that's clear. If you're currently being abused or you're currently being, victimized, then please seek help, and it's not being a victim to ask for help. What's really, to me, being a victim is you're past it. It's happened, and now you just keep replaying that in your head over and over and over again.
You know, people that follow me know I talk about the X. The X is really a military term that stems from a point of attack. It can be an ambush site. It can be a target you're trying to take down. The flip side of the coin, if you get attacked, you are on the X. And the victim mindset, if you say to yourself, I am not able to do something because race, creed, color, gender, size, where I came from, socioeconomic status, whatever it is, any of those things pin you to the X. They give you an excuse to sit on the X because you're able to say, well, I can't do this because I'm a specific color, or I can't do this because of my gender, or I can't do this because of my gender persuasion. None of that really matters. And there's millions and millions of people. It matters, but it doesn't matter because the reality is it doesn't matter for your ability to drive forward out of a bad situation. And usually when there's a bad situation, there's a natural tendency to focus inward on the pain and the misery and all these things. But the reality, it's on you to take that first step. And that became the genesis of this idea that I now speak on, getting off the X. And it is a victor mentality. It is a mentality that I don't care what happens in my life, I'm going to continue to drive forward. I'm going to figure out a way.
A lot of people are just running from discomfort. They're running from it. They're just avoiding it. It's so easy to. And like if you get distracted for a second, you're like, let me check my phone. You just start going through your phone and looking at, and you're just distracting yourself from the tiniest frustration of boredom. Just we don't get bored anymore. Or if we get bored for these tiny amounts of time, and then you get distracted. So your distraction is eliminating your boredom. But the problem with that is like, there's certain thoughts that only come to you when you're thinking, when you don't have any input coming in. When we're constantly looking at our phones, the only input you're getting is input from other people. And sometimes that's good. Sometimes you get good stuff out of that. But it's like a diet of only fruit, like you need some protein. Yeah. Like you need to get some other things in your diet, and I think having discomfort in your diet, like having it as a regular part of your life, it minimizes the amount of other kinds of that you create.
What I do know is this. Every single person watching or listening to this has immense power inside, has incredible talents and gifts, has incredible capabilities that they don't even know exist right now.
So many people have written discount version of yourself, okay? But you have to, again, think to yourself, okay, I am left, but I can now turn this left into something positive. What's important is for people to understand that setback, forsaken, rejected, it didn't work. That setback is only temporary.
There's an element of just getting back up again when you've been punched so many times that you feel like you can't. And
there are times you feel like you will never get out, and that you will be a discount version of yourself, and that what used to be your life is not going to be your life. And that is not the truth.
You can do anything you set your mind to if you roll up your sleeves, you get in there and you do it. Everything is figure-outable.
The only real power we have in the world is choosing our response. We can't choose what happens to us. We can get stuck into situations where we are not treated fairly, where any number of bad things can happen. And so the only choice we can make is how to respond. And I find that knowledge gives me so much freedom, because if something bad is happening to me that I can say is beyond my control, I can say, well, at least, I have the power in my response to show the world what kind of person I am.
In the moment, we have to work with what we have, like to just alchemize the anger, the frustration, someone putting you down, and to use it as a positive and productive vehicle to help you move ahead.
The key is not to try to become the person you used to be. And you may have heard this saying that I say, A comeback is not a go back.
So I win or I learn, but I never lose. What does that mean? It means that no matter what situation I put myself in, either I'm gonna be a baller and I'm gonna knock it out of the park, or I'm gonna learn a ton. And then I'm gonna be like, okay, so I learned all this stuff, but I could do it next time. But I never lose. So I'm not attaching that identity. Does that mean that I never make silly mistakes? Of course I do. Does that mean in the moment when I've wasted cash, when I've made a poor judgment call, when I've fallen flat on my face, that I don't freaking cry or feel like an idiot or absolutely want to cry in the corner? I absolutely do those things. I do those things. But then the moment I actually take a breath and have a little perspective for a moment, I'm like, okay, I win or I learn, but I never lose. And that allows me to get back up, contextualize it, and keep on trucking. All we're striving for, progress, not perfection. And I think that those stumbles and those screw-ups are a really positive indicator that you're actually in the game, that you're actually making progress, and that you're on your way eventually to victory.
Best piece of advice I ever heard is don't punk out and quit. Worthwhile, worthy things in life are just the result of a lot of, painful, enduring failure. You'll be annoyed about, I often get annoyed about something somebody said to me at the office, or some political thing that's going on, in my friend group, or some other issue. I'm stuck in traffic, and I will forget, wait a minute, okay, at the end of the day, I come from stardust. I will return to being stardust. None of this matters at all. The only real thing that matters is love, loving people and being loved yourself. And I think everything else is kind of gravy. So
go find something that you're so friggin' passionate about that you can't help yourself, but just attack it, and then just go and start having fun with making your life immeasurably better.